I wanted to make a video about drilling Ghost Oki, not because I think the options are, counterintuitive, or I think they're quite obvious, but because there are a few subtleties to it that are interesting and worth exploring a little. And the first thing I'll jump into it, the first recording I have here is to block, but not just to block and then do something right away. Now I'm having it hold up back because this is a constant input, like holding a turbo button, as opposed to this, which is intermittent, because the purpose here is to have them interrupt your string if you leave a gap, particularly before L Ghost. I want to see visually that they jumped or that they got hit during jump startup, so that the training, the drill, is reinforcing my true string as much as possible. And even if it seems like a small difference, it's definitely possible. It happens quite a bit, actually, that if somebody's mashing L here, right, out of block, that timing for the mash just isn't quite going to line up with the gap you leave. And so you'll be confident you left a gap, but it won't manifest, and so you won't get that reinforcement you want from the drill. Now, if you want to practice converting the overhead on hit, like obviously you could do it on block here, but if you want to practice converting it on hit, as far as I know, you'll have to mash. I don't think there's a better option. Mash something, but one way or another, that's what we're doing there. I'm going to skip to reflect tag. Complicated business, we'll get back to it, but number 3 is just mashed reflect here, and there's nothing interesting about this really. It's just that when we do the drill, our objective is to react to reflect on that first ghost and to hold L until about when we land, and then we'll be able to punish a whiffed third reflect, right? Because our opponent can't tell whether we're going to release that ghost or not. We're going to make them guess as far as where the gaps are. So that's a really easy one to record. Just have the dummy mash reflect. No trouble there. Slot 4. This is guard cancel vanish, an inexact science. So you can see I just have it hold back for a second in GC vanish. And this is something maybe you want to record a few times. What matters is that it's sort of realistic for match conditions. Whoops. Really, at the end of the day, I think you are practicing your kind of like gut reaction to the Vanish sound, to the Vanish animation, and so when it happens doesn't really matter so much. Whoops, that was a little low. Doesn't really matter as much as the fact that you're just practicing it, because this is distinctive, right? So you probably build a reaction. But if you really want to be thorough, you could record 2 of these. Like mine here is a little late. You could record a second one that GC vanishes earlier because the conversions aren't necessarily the same. Oh wow, that's weird. I was not ready for L to be available there. I kind of released it and it got eaten, but that's a good thing to practice in the drills, right? It's, if it's eaten there, what do? You see L sitting there. I wasn't sure exactly what to do, and then it auto-released. That's an interesting, instructive moment. Regardless, GC Vanish, I'm comfortable just doing 1, but you can do 2 if you want. Number 5, in my case, is just Vanish, and you want this to be a frame 1 Vanish. You're testing your meaties. So here, what you're doing is practicing, ideally reacting to delay tech, meatying, and also converting. I do, as always, recommend converting with Super Dash there because it's very easy. But it is good also to practice this conversion because it requires a decent amount of negative edge on that M release as you hit them down. So it's good to practice that and get a sense of timing and stuff like that. And that's good. Now, number 6 is reflect tag. So reflect tag is a weird one. I actually have 2 recordings for it, and I'll show you why. The first one, you're going to see, it's just the dummy is holding assist and mashing reflect. And you can see they just keep reflecting here. And if I were to hold L Ghost, like in practice, right, I see them reflecting, and I hold L Ghost, I'm going to punish this exactly like I would punish triple reflect. And for whatever reason, that mash timing is just lining up in a way that tag isn't being activated, triple reflect is, right? This is actually what happens a majority of the time. I would say in my small sample size, I believe it is 2/3 of the time this happens. And this is great because it's just sort of easy to have it be literally triple reflect, like the same thing as triple reflects, right? It would be great if this was all that would happen, but unfortunately reflect tag is a little more complicated. If that mash timing is slightly different, and I do encourage you to actually record until you get this timing, here's what it looks like if we just sort of autopilot all our release timings except hold L. And now, all of a sudden, I thought I was going to block there. In a lot of cases, you would block and lose your initiative entirely. In this case, I got some kind of weird cursed hit, like punish on the tag, that I would never be able to convert in a match, or even in the lab, probably. I don't even have Smash available to kind of finesse the conversion. And what's the deal here? What's happening? Well, basically, as far as I can tell, the second reflect particularly, but the reflects in general, are being triggered slightly earlier, and so that activation window is not lining up quite the same way. Basically, they're able to tag in a way that they aren't. And the way you fix this is interesting. It's actually, like, if you get this problem, it's a product largely of bad lab habits. So here, I'll do it again. I'm trying to get it to make me block, because that's the worst case scenario, but it's a little hard to make this mistake on purpose. But the way you fix this is actually by reacting to their tech and fully acknowledging it. And if I were to do that, what happens is it pushes all of my actions slightly down the timeline. And all of a sudden, now it looks a lot like the triple reflect punish, except they are tagging here. They are able to tag, but I don't have to change my timing. I see reflect, I think I'm going to hold L Ghost, and all is well, because I get my punish. And the punish is the same, right? For the other one, I did jump medium into some stuff. Right here, see, I just acknowledge their tech, and I can just jump medium into some stuff. And that's all. And the hit stun decay is exactly the same. I don't need to know two combos here. It is kind of nice. Now, what happens, though, is that you're putting a lot of pressure on your actual meaty reaction. So if you want to practice this at first, reflect tag, what I would recommend is actually potentially putting on your reflect tag slot. And again, you record it until you get the one that is bad from your perspective, right? Where you autopilot S release as soon as the super starts, and you end up getting hit here, right? You want this recording to be the one you practice against, because the other one is no challenge, right? This is no challenge at all. We might as well just delete this recording, because we already have a triple reflect one. So at the end of the day, what you really want to be practicing here is delaying your S Ghost to kick all your other timings down the road, right? And also meeting at the same time. So turning on the reflect tag recording plus the wake up vanish recording is a good way to do that to start out. If you have the dummy set to delay tech and you're making a sincere effort to actually counter delay tech and meaty vanish, you will almost definitely not have the problem that I'm showing here, because it's not really humanly possible to S-Ghost early enough, as far as I can tell, although I am a little old and slow, but it's probably not possible to react in a way that has S-Ghost hitting early enough to trigger these shenanigans. But what you want to do, like a lot of people will immediate tech, and you do not want to autopilot. They're a slightly early. I actually thought the dummy might, in a convertible way, but might flip over me there. But either way, it is an interesting problem to have to deal with that fortunately does have a solution, but it is one of the main reasons to do this drill, to be honest. I'm going to shut up because that's a convoluted way of going through options that are quite simple. But again, especially with Reflect Tag, but with some of these others too, it's worth exploring the nuance. And I'm going to append a clip of me doing this, actually a little bit, to this video. I'll cut it in just a second. But I haven't drilled this in years, really, except in prepping for this video and kind of figuring out that Reflect Tag issue, which I never had before. I don't know why it would be new, but either way, I'll probably make a lot of mistakes that will be instructive. So I'll append myself doing it a little bit, but otherwise that's all I got.